developing with a magnitude 8.9 earthquake, the biggest in its recorded history.
Today is Friday, March 11th, and this is All Things Considered from NPR News.
I'm Robert Siegel.
And I'm Melissa Brock. Coming up, the destruction in Japan and the earthquake preparations that kept structures from collapsing.
Tsunami traveled across the Pacific in Crescent City, California.
Each other, and it's just a hell of a mess.
The challenging
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Pam Coulter. Millions are without power and parts of Japan are in shambles after today's huge earthquake and tsunami. In Tokyo, reporter Lucy Kraft says some coastal towns were simply washed away.
Information is so very sketchy right now. It's just communication lines are still not restored through the area.
More missing in Japan. President Obama has pledged U.S. support, and U.S. military ships are already en route to Japan. The after effects of Japan's massive earthquake still pose a threat in Northern California. Crescent City, about 20 miles south of the Oregon border, is bracing for another tsunami surge. Sheriff's Department Commander Bill Stevens says it could be even more destructive than the first wave.
Part of the problem is that this thing started before us low tide, which really helps us out. We're crawling towards the high tide now.
Crescent City's harbor was badly damaged earlier today, and the Coast Guard is searching for a man who was swept out to sea while taking photographs along the coast. There is a significant new development in the contract talks between pro football players and owners at this hour. NPR's Tom Goldman joins us live to report on the latest move by the Players Union. Tom?
And because the two sides couldn't reach an agreement on how to split $9.3 billion in annual revenues, the
How do we go from news to bullshit?
Association has announced within the last hour that it has decertified. It is no
Should
longer
send them up to
a union,
Wisconsin.
and that's a legal move.
Governor Walker outlawed the
lockout
union.
by owners of the players, and it means the players now can sue the NFL on antitrust grounds.
How could the union decertification shake up the negotiations, Tom?
Well, now there are no negotiations. Now it all goes to the courts, and the players can sue for antitrust violations, although interestingly, they can sue for violations that allegedly happened after decertification. A smart counter move by the league is now shutting down operations, imposing a lockout, so players have nothing to sue over. So it's all in the hands of the lawyers now and the courts.
NPR's Tom Goldman reporting live in Washington. Retail sales were up for the 8th month in a row in February. The 1% increase is also the largest gain in 4 months. Consumers spent money on new cars, clothes, and electronics, even as higher gas costs were eating away at their wallets. Wall Street ended the week with some gains. The Dow rose 59 points, NASDAQ climbed 15, and the S&P 500 was ahead 9. This is NPR. The nation's unemployment rate remains painfully high, but it's even worse for young veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Labor Department said their jobless rate is just under 21%. They may be up against employer concerns that Guard and Reserve troops would be gone for long stretches, and that veterans may have mental health issues. Fighting along the Libyan coast centered near the oil refinery at Ras Lanuf today. NPR's Peter Kenyon reports from Benghazi. Anti-government rebels have been battered by aerial and artillery attacks.
Fighting continued to flare near the refinery located several miles east of the town of Ras Lanuf. Rebel fighters armed with AK-47s and vintage-time-based rockets went up against modern fighter jets and some artillery belonging to the forces loyal to Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. To the east of Benghazi, the provisional rebel government said it's confident in its ability to defend the city against Gaddafi's forces. A military vessel controlled by the rebels was seen offshore, but its capabilities were unclear. Thus far, Benghazi has been spared violence, months, and after Friday prayers, there was another large rally in support of the rebels. About his son's safe on state television that his forces are heading east. Peter Kenyon, NPR News, Benghazi.
President Obama is not ruling out the possibility of a no-fly zone over Libya. At a White House news conference today, the president said the U.S. and others are slowly tightening the noose around Muammar Gaddafi. He stopped short of moving toward military action. Mr. Obama also said he's willing to tap into the strategic oil reserve to bring down gas prices that have spiked over unrest in the Middle East. Pam Coulter, NPR News in
Saturday, March 19th at the Midland by AMC, AEG Live, in support of 90.9 The Bridge presents Devotchka. Tickets for Devotchka are available through the Midland box office, all Ticketmaster outlets, Ticketmaster.com, or 800-745-3000. More information is available at MidlandKC.com. Devotchka, Saturday, March 19th at the Midland by AMC, in support of 90.9 The Bridge.
Support for NPR comes from the Robert Johnson Foundation, committed to helping Americans lead healthier lives and get the care they need. On the web at rwjf.org. From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Robert Siegel.
And I'm Melissa Bach. The images are searing. Clusters of houses swept off their foundations, floating, some on fire. Skyscrapers rocking in a sickening sway. A chaotic pile of airplanes and cars. The most powerful earthquake in Japan's recorded history struck today just off the northeastern coast near the city of Sendai. With a magnitude of 8.9, the quake then triggered a massive tsunami that slammed through coastal villages. Hundreds are confirmed dead, and with many more missing, the death toll is expected to rise. President Obama promised U.S. help for Japan wherever needed. We go first to Lucy Kraft in Tokyo.
To be Japanese is to be born with a sense of vulnerability. Japanese train for natural disasters as soon as they start storm. To combat the near constant threat of floods, landslides, typhoons, and earthquakes, tens of billions of dollars are spent on what is arguably the world's most elaborate disaster prevention system. Even so, perhaps nothing could have prepared the Japanese for a monster of an earthquake like this. The scenes of horror playing out on national TV seemed of biblical proportions. The entire town engulfed in flames. Hundreds of bodies discovered, victims of tsunami waves more than 30 feet high. Commuters in downtown Tokyo, the tech capital of the world, seeking refuge in Buddhist temples. Even the parking lot at Tokyo Disneyland was sinking into the mud. The drama began mid-afternoon local time, halting Japan's national parliament mid-session. The cabinet quickly adjourned, changed into work clothes, and set up a crisis management team, a legacy of the last mega earthquake in Kobe 16 years ago, which was widely considered a low point in government ineptitude. Prime Minister Naoto Kan urged calm, and for those who could, to lend a helping hand.
We therefore ask the people of Japan to exercise the spirit of fraternity, help each other, and to act fast.
Another reason for Japan's intense sense of vulnerability is its paucity of natural resources, which is why this earthquake-prone nation has taken a seemingly risky step of embracing nuclear power. Reactors are supposed to shut down at the first tremor, and most did, cutting off power to millions of homes across eastern Japan. One reactor in Fukushima Prefecture, or state, malfunctioned. Authorities say no radiation has been detected, and the incident forced thousands to evacuate. The communities near the epicenter of the quake were in northeastern Japan, a traditional fishing region and home to many factories, including those of Japan's automakers. The damage from the quake and its aftermath will clearly be immense, but the area is relatively lightly populated, leaving the Japanese to imagine the havoc that will be wreaked if a megaquake strikes Tokyo. For NPR News, this is Lucy Kraft in Tokyo.
As we just heard, Japan works very hard at preventing havoc in a natural disaster. It has invested heavily in infrastructure, putting up buildings that can withstand strong quakes and save lives. Stephen Mahan is a professor of structural engineering at the University of California, Berkeley, and director of the Pacific Earthquake Engineering Research Center. Professor Maynard.
Thank you, Robert. It's very nice to be here.
When
Japan had an earthquake a while, days ago, honey? This is another one?
To me, having been in this Sichuan 7.0, this is 10 times bigger than that. To what magnitude are buildings designed to withstand it?
Generally speaking, buildings are designed to be serviceable following an earthquake for an event that might occur once or twice during the life of the structure. So this might be an earthquake that might only happen every 100 or maybe even fewer years. When you get up to these big earthquakes, it's more like having a collision in your automobile when the airbags and the bumpers that collapse are all brought into play. So it's normally expected that the buildings aren't going to perform without damage in a really, really big earthquake like this. But we're aiming to try to prevent collapse and save lives.
But is the assumption that you avoid collapse, but in a quake this big, assume structural damage will be so great that ultimately you'll have to knock structures down and replace them?
Exactly. I think that's something that many people don't realize, that we're doing